Hey folks, what's going on? So today I'm going to do my best to explain different types of law, the three types of law that are in the Constitution. Uh, we have, first of all, common law. Common law can also be called natural or constitutional law, and it's based on our Creator's laws, presented originally by Moses. Anytime someone is charged under the common law, there must be a damaged party. Someone has to be damaged. Under the common law, you cannot be charged unless you infringe on the life, liberty, or happiness, aka property, of someone else. In the common law, you can be a fool. There's no law against being a fool or acting like a fool in the common law. For example, not wearing your seatbelt. If someone thought that was a foolish thing to do, is to not wear their seatbelt, you know, how could they charge you in common law? Who got injured by you not wearing your seatbelt? Nobody. And so common law is obviously fantastic. It's the law of the land. It's the law of the Magna Carta of 1215. And it is what gives us remedy with this whole fiasco of what they've got going on here with us. So the second type of law is equity law, the law of commercial instruments. And in that law, you are basically compelled. It's the law of compelled performance. You're being compelled to perform to the exact letter of any contract. And if you have compelled performance, there must be a contract somewhere, and you are being compelled to perform under the obligation of the contract. And so, if we had courts of equity and you got pulled over for not having your seatbelt on, you could simply say, if you let it go to court, which you don't have to, but that's for other videos later. But let's say you get to the courtroom, you can simply demand the contract. Where's the contract that I signed, that I allegedly signed, that I am being compelled to perform to the letter of? Right? Well, you can't really do that, so obviously we don't have courts of equity or courtrooms and courthouses of equity. But that is the second law. There's common law and there's equity law, or the law of negotiable instruments. And the law of negotiable instruments, again, which is compelled performance, is only civil. There's no criminal penalties for equity law. Now, if you refuse to perform as directed by the court, the piece of paper, right, the contract, you can be charged with contempt of court, and this is a criminal action. But of course, why wouldn't you? You should pay if you entered a contract knowingly, voluntarily, and intentionally, and you didn't perform to the letter of it. You should pay, right? I mean, that makes sense. That's a good law. It's a good system. But we don't have that system. Unfortunately, we did until 1938. But the third type of law in the Constitution is admiralty law. Admiralty law is a jurisdiction of compelled performance, just like equity law. However, there are criminal penalties for not adhering to the letter of the contract. But this only applies to international contracts. So it's ingenious the way they did this. I mean, our founding fathers were super smart dudes, right? Now, the problem we have in this country, of course, is that we're presumed not under any of these laws specifically as far as how they word it to us. And so in 1938, basically what happened is all of the top lawyers and judges and attorneys, head attorneys, were called into a secret meeting, and they were told that America is a bankrupt nation. It is completely owned by its creditors. They own the judiciary, the executive. They own every state and local government. And so what they said was, when they told these lawyers and judges, you are now operating under admiralty law. Call it anything you like, but don't call it admiralty. And so, in addition to doing that, they later on created the Uniform Commercial Code. And the Uniform Commercial Code goes along with the law system that they say that we're under, which is called statutory jurisdiction. Which, by the way, you can't find in Black's Law Dictionary because it doesn't exist. You know, it's all a bunch of BS. If you know what you're doing, it's BS. Now, if the laws were done correctly, it's not BS, right? I've explained the laws to you, somewhat, and hopefully understandably, overstandably, so you can comprehend it. But what they've done is they've blended the common law with equity law. So in common law, you can have a criminal penalty. Equity law, you can't. Common law, you are not compelled to perform to the letter of any contract. Common law is simple. Did you hurt somebody or their property? Then leave me alone. But when they blend them, now, not adhering to the letter of a contract, because it's bonded, if you will, with the common law, it's in harmony with the common law, then you can have criminal penalties. So this is the big farce that we're under. The Uniform Commercial Code is a body of rules, statutes, and codes that literally was written by Unidroit and the I can't think of the organization, but basically it was the Uniform Law Conference. There it is. But anyway, Unidroit, I believe, in conjunction with the Uniform Law Conference and the American Law Institute, created the Uniform Commercial Code, which is, again, all of these statutes and codes that bind us to performing to these contracts that we don't know about, you know, especially the major one, which is the national debt. And so the national debt is an international contract. Why? Because the federal United States is foreign. It's international from the continental United States, the 50 states. And so it's a pretty tangled web that they weave there, but, you know, there's remedy there. And I think I spoke about this in my last video. The remedy is UCC 1-308. It used to be called UCC 1-207, and then they changed it to 1-308, so people wouldn't be able to find it. You know, they don't want people to know about this stuff. You're never going to hear about someone going into court. And, you know, you hear about, I hear people all the time, I make comments on YouTube, and I hear people, all the naysayers. They say, oh, you know, in Jabloni versus Jabloni, this person lost and sovereign citizen. Yeah, okay, so what you're discussing right now is the subject matter of the case. Once any party, especially the defendant, starts arguing the subject matter, they've entered a contract that there's something there that they should be in trouble for. If someone comes up to you and says, hey, why did you push that old lady down with the groceries, and you didn't, why would you say, I didn't push her down, I kind of touched her? You know, you didn't touch her at all, right? There's no jurisdiction there. And so, you know, that's the real key there. But When you reserve your rights, with UCC 1-308, you're saying that you reserve your rights not to be compelled to perform under any contracts or maritime agreements that you did not enter into knowingly, voluntarily, and intentionally, and that you do not accept the liability of any compelled benefit or contract or maritime agreement. Because, again, the entire United States federal citizens have been entered into a contract as a citizen, and also as an accommodation party for the national debt. And so if you get tricked into consenting that you are a person, or, you know, they might say, Mr. Smith, you know, do you understand the charges? You know, what you should say is, I don't know who you're talking to. I am not this Mr. Smith. I am the beneficiary. I have brought Mr. Smith here, which is the birth certificate. That's the bond. That's the federal bond that they're actually charging. Not the living man or woman. They trick you into saying that you are not the creditor, but that you're the debtor. That you're not the beneficiary. And so then you, not only do you have to pay the fine out of your whatever money you make, currency, not money, but currency, but they double dip. They also go to the federal, the Treasury, and they get that money from your birth certificate, because all crimes are prepaid. All crimes and all personal bills are prepaid with your birth certificate. This is what the program was all about. I don't know enough about it to completely exert my power yet, but I'm getting there. Knowledge is power. The pen is mightier than the sword, folks. Let me tell you that right now. That's why you're screwed and they're all rich. It isn't because they touched you with a sword, is it? No. And you know what? You know, it's horrible for someone to commit a crime where they physically, you know, stab somebody or, you know, rob them, whatever. Those are horrible things. You know what's even more horrible? Using these colored words and these fraud words and statutes and codes that don't really pertain to us, but they tell us that they do. And in the process, over generations, billions and billions, if not trillions of dollars have been harvested by good men and women and gone to bankers. And because of that, you know, the fallout of that, the collateral damages, millions of people died. Babies starved, didn't get their medications. Babies, grandmothers, fathers, daughters, sons. You know, so it's a pretty egregious thing that's going on. And what's egregious is not as much the system of what that has been put in place, even though it's really deceptive how they did it, right? But what's most egregious, and you're not going to want to hear this, is your ignorance. If you know how to traverse the system, you have all the power, all of the power. That's how our founding fathers created the system. And so, I'm almost at 15 minutes again. I hope this was helpful. Try to make more later. Let's take our republic back, man. Peace.